Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. Take your seats. Settle down. Settle down. Welcome to the Road to Concord 101. This class is about all things connected to the path of history leading from Mount Sinai to Lexington Green and the individual liberty and freedom of man. If you're in the wrong place, feel free to get up and go see the registrar's office about dropping this class, preferably before you meet the professor. In the event you do not already know this, your professor is Joe Bakanovic, and he has a bit of a reputation on campus. He is most definitely an acquired taste, but if you can learn to tolerate him, he will make you better at defending your position, whatever it may be. I'm T.A. Charlie. I'm here to help the professor, but more importantly, you. We encourage you to take notes, and if you have questions, feel free to call. If you'd like the number, please email us. You can also post your questions in the comments, and we'll get the professor's attention. Part of my job is to let you know a little bit about your professor. As I said earlier, the professor has that bit of a reputation on campus. Not all of it is good. Let me help explain a little with a story about how I came to be the professor's TA. I was invited to attend one of his classes. My first impression of the professor was that he was an egotistical, narcissistic know-it-all. My intent after only a few minutes of class was never to attend another class with this professor. But after class, Professor Joe came up to me and thanked me for my class participation and told me that my perspective was valuable, and he asked me to keep coming to class. This actually took me back a little. To me, he seemed inconsistent. What was I to do? I decided to continue coming to his classes. As I did, I actually started doing what he does encourage students to do. Check behind him and see if what he is teaching is actually correct. I have done this over and over again, and generally speaking, I found what he teaches to be backed by sound, valid, and rational arguments from reputable sources. When I have challenged him and provided a sound, valid, and rational argument in opposition to his current position, he immediately changed his position and thanked me for correcting him. Why do I tell you all this? Professor Joe is a little rough around the edges, especially in the way he delivers his content. But if you stick with him and listen to what he teaches and then go and check his sources, you will likely find, as I did, he will help you better understand the world around you and help you to think better and hopefully to live better. At least that is our hope. One last note. This class builds on itself. Therefore, it is important to attend class regularly. We will not always have time to go over previously covered material. If you are new, we suggest you watch our older classes. We've created playlists to help you with those things we feel are of special importance. Now, let's get started.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. This is the Road to Concord. I am Joe Bakanovic. Today's subject, we've covered this a couple of times before. Charlie, what you got?
Just a quick programming note. We have lost X, so we will not be streaming to X today because of a Cloudflare issue. So all the other platforms should be up, it looks like. So
I'm glad you said that, because the other programming note is that if I cannot figure out how to stream older shows by Friday, next week we won't have any live shows. The 24th through the 28th will be taking off for the holiday, namely because BB has dictated that I will spend time with her. BB, my wife, the boss's boss. As I was saying, this is a show that I've covered before, I think twice now. This will be the third time. It doesn't get very good reviews with my friends. Excuse me, I apologize for that. It's about secession. And why is this subject so rejected? I don't understand this. I don't. Is it because we love the nation more than we love our liberty and our rights? Is that it? Or do we somehow think we can save this nation from itself? Because I don't. I don't see any evidence of that. We seem to have.
One nation, indivisible. Haven't you read the Pledge of Allegiance?
That was created by a progressive. You know that, right? The Pledge of Allegiance is the form. It comes from progressivism.
I'm sure. I'm just, throwing that out there.
So are several of our songs, America the Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's progressive. It's done for a reason. This nation was born out of a spirit of secession. Secession's in our blood, if you know how to trace it. We were a commonwealth tradition, or born out of that commonwealth tradition, the rule of law over the rule of a king, and of faith above the law. I've shown you all the different charters and books and arguments that have been written going back to the 1200s. We come from that line of thinking and reasoning and arguing. So that used to be in our blood. The founders believed that secession was legal and that it was probable if they didn't handle their affairs correctly. They said as much. Other outsiders agreed that secession was something that this country could, the states could secede. So what happened to us? Why is this subject not an option? Why do we refuse to consider it? Heck, we can't even discuss it. Why? Well, I've noticed here in recent times, it's starting to pick up a little bit of support. It's not as crazy as people think. Are you aware of the movement in Oregon? There are Oregon counties voting right now to join what they call Greater Idaho. This is a story from Newsweek. It's May 28th of 2024. And as of this point, these are the counties in Oregon, here in red, that have voted to join Idaho. Now, what they need is the state approval from Oregon, which they won't get. The approval from the state of Idaho, which I think they've already got. And then they need Congress to approve this, which they won't get. Because this would take a lot of seats from Oregon and put them into Idaho, which would essentially negate the blue from holding on to Oregon. And that's what this is all about. These people, this is the proposed state of Idaho. These folks are tired of not being represented. And that's what a republic is supposed to do, is represent the rights and the liberty of all citizens, not just a special group and not just the majority. If you represent the interests of the majority over the minority, that is democracy. And this country rejected democracy. Our founding fathers called it the tyranny of the masses. They rejected it. So you also have GOP legislators proposing the creation of a new state of California. This article is California.com, the centersquare.com. It's about New California. August 27th of this year, 2025. And if you go down, let's see, where is it? Okay, and here, Fox 11, Los Angeles. That's a proposed map right there of the area that they want to, right here. This is the map that they're proposing, that essentially the counties on the coast would be left-wing California and everybody else would be right-wing California. And they would become their own state. Most of that's desert. There aren't a whole lot of people living in that area, but it would be enough to give you 2 senators, and it would be enough to give you several congressmen. Then you have this article from The Hill, December 6th, 2025. There are a group of people in the state of, I thought I had a map here, but there's this West Virginia senators are offering Maryland and Virginia counties to join West Virginia so that they can get away from the left-wing politics of their states. So this is a secession movement. And then we have from Newsweek, Staten Island leaders renew secession push after Mamdie's election. And this is Saturday, November 15th, 2025. So you have Staten Island, and Brooklyn wanted to secede from New York City under Bloomberg. So we have these movements. The northwest part of Florida, where I live, has several times tried to secede and rejoin the state of Alabama, where I believe, if history in my mind is clear, we used to be part of the state of Alabama. We have more in common with the state of Alabama than we do southern Florida. Now, me personally, I don't really want to secede from the state of Florida right now, because at the moment the state of Florida is doing good. But why do I keep returning to this subject? Well, for one thing, it's legal. Secession is legal. It's constitutional. It's also part of the natural law and the natural rights from which our system of government flows. Now, I was looking in a Substack article earlier, and there's somebody in there argued that, well, secession's illegal. The Supremacy Clause overrides that. No, it doesn't. It says, well, all federal laws are supreme over the states. Yes, federal laws. We have forgotten what a federation is and what the word federal means. I'm going to show it to you in a minute here, and I'm going to let the founding fathers explain it to you. But essentially, the Constitution was divorced from the Declaration of Independence by progressives in the early 20th century. And if you marry the Constitution back to the Declaration as it was intended to be and to remain by the founding fathers thought that the Declaration of Independence is our founding document, not the Constitution. You put the U.S. Constitution back under the Declaration of Independence, and all of a sudden the right to secession pops back forefront into your mind. You want proof? This is from the nationalarchives.org. It's the transcript of the Declaration of Independence, and it says, in Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect of the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impelled them to separation. That right there is the natural law, and therefore a natural right of secession. Clearly, forcefully, cleanly articulated and asserted in the Declaration of Independence. Do not tell me that the Constitution, a document subordinate to the Declaration of Independence, can overrule the judge and creator of the universe. It cannot. And yet we have people in our country who think that the Supremacy Clause makes it illegal to secede. I don't know how we got there. Well, I mean, I do. I don't know why we allowed it to happen. Let me just go here for you. This is a subdued day for me, folks. I don't like this discussion, contrary to what a lot of people might think. Let me blow this up. I want you to read it. This is from a book I wrote a long time ago. I never published it, but it says, if any state in the Union will declare that it prefers separation to a continuance in the Union, I have no hesitation in saying, let us separate. Thomas Jefferson, the guy who penned the Declaration of Independence. How about this one? Each state, in ratifying the Constitution, is considered a sovereign body, independent of all others, and only to be bound by its own voluntary act. In this relation, then, the new Constitution will, if established, be a federal and not a national constitution. James Madison, only the guy who wrote the Constitution. And this is from the Federalist Papers, where he's arguing about how we're supposed to see and understand the Constitution of the United States. Here's another quote. If the states were not left to leave the Union when their rights were interfered with, the government would have been national, but the convention refused to baptize it by that name. Daniel Webster, the great defender of the Constitution. And then finally, most of us don't even know this man's name anymore. Quote, the Union was formed by the voluntary agreement of the states, and these, in uniting together, have not forfeited their nationality, nor have they been reduced to the condition of one and the same people. If one of the states chooses to withdraw from the compact, it would be difficult to disapprove its rights of doing so, and the federal government would have no means of maintaining its claim directly either by force or right. Alexis de Tocqueville. He was a political observer of the United States in the 1830s. We have the right of secession, folks. It's built into the notion of federal. I don't understand how, why, when did we forget all of these things? How did that happen? What the heck is wrong with us as a people? Where's our spirit of liberty? See, I see some of your comments on the board. This is not going to be an entertaining show. Let me explain something to you. There was a time in this country when conversations like the one I'm trying to have right now occupied the bars. People would go to the pubs, and this is what they talked about. In depth, not just on the surface. It wasn't just what we were told to say by the media or the pamphleteers of the time, the press. They understood it in detail. They understood the Constitution. Have you read the Federalist Papers? Have you read them? Have you tried to read them? If you do it sometime, just look them up online and just grab one. I don't care, any one of them. The point is, they talk to the average common American citizen, colonial citizen of the time, in a way that you and I, the average American today, would not be able to read, let alone understand. And yet they were just backwards, old white rich men. Never mind that one of the people writing those was not rich, and he was 18, 19 years old. We forget how young the founding fathers were. The median age, not average, median age, the midpoint. If you average 10 people and you got a guy who's 1,000 years old, the average is going to be skewed to the 1,000. The median is, if I've got 5 people that are this age and 3 people this age and whatever, the median is the midpoint, the most populous. The median age of the founders was under 30, significantly under 30. They were young. And they were better educated than we are. And they understood these things. And it wasn't just the founding fathers. It was the rank and file colonial citizen. I can't have the conversations with my friends and folks that I have a hard time having them with some of y'all. We don't want to agree on anything. So to the extent that, let's talk about the Civil War. Let's go there. Now, I like the idea of secession because it's legal. And to be honest with you, folks, it can be done peacefully. It won't be, because there's too much of a lust for power and money and control over their fellow man in this country. So the same forces that forced the South back into the Union would attack this time. It's got nothing to do with liberty. It's got nothing to do with the nation. Lincoln was wrong. Lincoln was just flat out wrong. He's not a hero in my eyes. Lincoln nationalized our country. I realize that. Schools don't teach it that way. Lincoln saved the country. No, he didn't. He ruined it. He destroyed it. The United States of America, as founded, ended with the end of the Civil War. Now, I know a lot of people tell you, well, we've been a corporation since then. The heck with that crap. Even if it's true, it's irrelevant. What's important is that Lincoln forced the federal constitution to become a national constitution. We lost our liberty. We lost the nation. We lost the experiment that man can govern himself with the Civil War. The only way you're going to regain that spirit is through the secession of those descendants of our founding fathers. And I don't mean bloodline, I mean spiritual. Now, a lot of Americans will, I'm thinking of one in particular, they'll push back against the idea of secession. It's patriotism, but it's the wrong type of patriotism. It's the right wing of the Progressive Party. It's Republicans. It used to be Democrats too, but it's Republicans that push this patriotism. It's not the founding fathers' patriotism. One of Benjamin Franklin's one of his quotes that I love the most, it may not be one that's important to you, but Franklin said, "Where liberty dwells, there is my country." So his allegiance is to liberty, not a nation, not a piece of ground. As a believer in the Messiah and the God of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob, I don't belong to a piece of this earth. My kingdom is spiritual. I have freedom in my faith, even if my body is bound and enslaved. I belong to a spiritual kingdom, boundless, no borders. Even if I'm stuck in a earthly realm called the United States. Sam Adams, Boston Tea Party, when they signed the Declaration, said that it was the start of Protestant theocracy and that they had restored the sovereign, meaning the Messiah, to his rightful place. From sea to setting sun, let the Messiah rule. That's what the founding fathers thought they were doing. They even called it, Franklin called this New Israel. No, not replacement theology. They knew the prophecies about Ephraim. They understood it. Don't forget, they came out of the Great Awakening. They knew their Bible better than you and I do. But we can't talk about these things anymore. This patriotism, this love of country has prevented us from having these discussions, from realizing and embracing them. Rational discussions. It's just like racism has been used to shut down any discussion of race. You can't do anything now, which is leading to apartheid. A racial minority is starting to slowly gain power over the majority. It's just reverse. In this case, it's not going to be whites over blacks in South Africa. It's going to be blacks over whites in the United States. And I can't say these things because it's not politically correct, even though it's true. We're heading in that direction. And it's being supported and pushed by whites, white liberals. I guess that means that racism and apartheid are okay, as long as you're the one in power, which would then mean that slavery is actually okay, as long as you're the master. So if I push back against slavery in any and all of its forms, like in this case, blue states forcing the red states into submission, I've got a problem with that. I guess I can't look at it that way because democracy. Democracy, right? We're supposed to be a federation. Let's look at something here. A federation is representation of the states first in the federal government. How much red do you see in that picture? Land-wise, this nation is solid red, land-wise. So why are we being ruled by the blue? Well, democracy. Not supposed to be that way. That's a national government, not a federation. Democracy was tried in Greece. It failed. It fails everywhere it's tried. It always devolves into tyranny. Always. Because it's based on the tyranny of the masses. That's why you have the Electoral Congress. That's why you only have 2 senators instead of the senators apportioned by population. It was meant to protect states' rights. Now, that's been destroyed by progressives who want democracy because they know and understand that that's the avenue by which they can reclaim this country and return to some sort of monarchical, oligarchical system. They want to rule over you. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. This is a map in 1992. This is 2024. We're getting redder. And not only more red, but deeper red, especially in what we would call the Bible Belt. Now, these areas in the South, Alabama and Mississippi and Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, those are largely welfare recipient areas. I am not talking about the color of your skin. I'm talking about your culture. You live off of other people's labor. That's your culture. If I end welfare in this country, those areas of blue disappear, except for Atlanta. But those areas, and maybe Miami, but the rest of it, those will disappear because those people will move. They will go to where they can get free handouts. And the free handouts is why we have this. This is a picture of the population. The taller the block, blue block there, the more people live there. I'm supposed to believe that the nation is governed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, roughly 8 regions in the country. Less mass than the state of New Jersey is supposed to govern the rest of the country. That's democracy. Okay. Yes, that is democracy. And that's why democracy is tyrannical. So if the people in these cities say, hey, all you red places, you have to feed me and you have to give me health care and housing for free. That is slavery. And that is why I want to secede. I want nothing to do with the modern day masses in the deep state of this country. I reject their claims of moral high ground and of compassion for the poor. You will always have the poor. You cannot get rid of poverty. Why? Well, that's simple. Poverty is actually a product. It's a relational product. If there are 100 of us in the room and everybody has $1 and I have $1 and a penny, 99 of you are poor compared to me. That's the thing about poverty. Poverty is a comparison. Poverty is also the result of culture and how we live. It's got nothing to do with what you have. I have another document that I haven't shared in a while. It's a meme, but it basically shows you that if you want to be rich, you have to live poorer than your means. A poor person earns $10 and spends 11, or at least the 10. A rich person might earn $10. They save $2.50. They invest $2.50. They live off of $5. Eventually, they have a lot more money than the 10 without having to work any harder because their investments and their savings grows for them. I'm told that that person exploits the poor. That's the language of greed, and it isn't true. This nation once upon a time understood that. It used to be a saying that the business of America was business. Not because we allowed all these big robber barons to exist, but because we didn't get in the way of the average person starting a business and becoming a robber baron if they were capable of being so. It's not that robber barons are where we should be. Don't get me wrong. I have a problem with corporations, corporate structure. I don't like them. I would abolish them if I had the opportunity to do so. I don't believe any one man or woman should own a business larger than they themselves can run, which would essentially mean that you can't have Verizon or AT&T or Google. All of these businesses are too big for one person to run. But you know what you can have? You can have co-ops, commonwealths. So why is it that we got away from these things? Because that used to be how things worked. Rather than big corporate farms, we had co-ops to help the local farmers. And we were stronger back then because we weren't centralized. It's like a Borg ship. If you watch the new Next Generation Star Trek, why do you have to destroy the whole Borg ship? Because every essential function of the ship is spread out throughout the entire ship. You can't knock out its life support, I see what time it is, without destroying a large part of the ship, 80% of it. Yes, sir.
That's also why we feared a land invasion and stuff of Japan, because all of their infrastructure was so spread out and diversified that
we would have had to conquer the entire
we would have had to
nation.
conquer the entire island in order to get everything. So, you know, they were doing that part right, as far as that goes.
Yes.
We
Now, it was
used to
less
be doing
efficient.
that better.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it was less
yeah.
efficient for the Japanese military.
Yes.
It's also why we had to firebomb their cities.
Yes.
Everybody looks at us, oh, we were horrible. It was the only way to destroy their industry.
Yeah. So anyway,
there's a strength in that type of diversification and that type of spreading things out. There's also, you and I would all be a lot better off, and people who are self-sufficient will not worship the beast, government.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest pushes here.
Oh, yeah.
We might as well go to the bottom of the hour break, Charlie. We'll continue when we come back. Welcome back. There's a quote on the board here from Mr. Holt, James William Holt. Water jug in the house. Good to see you, brother. Haven't seen you in a while. It says the spirit of liberty is weaker now than the fear of losing our homes, the fear of not being able to feed and care for our families, and the fear of being the lone person on the battlefield. True. Absolutely true. That's actually one of the notes I had down here. Normalcy bias, for one thing. We are too set in the ways of what we know. We won't even entertain the idea of change. We're afraid of it because it brings uncertainty. And also because we crave security over liberty. We're afraid of how we're going to get fed. Not too many years ago, I can remember when I was a child, my dad always had a garden. We grew chickens, and we raised chickens, and we had quail and pheasant and turkey. We could feed ourselves if we had to. Our family of 6, we could have fed ourselves, and we only lived on an acre. You can do it. We don't do that anymore. We've become a very soft, very lax, very comfortable society. You know, good times have made bad men, capital M, but I mean human beings. So we crave our security, and we're unwilling to work, suffer, or sacrifice for liberty. We're not the people of our founding. We're soft. We're weak. We're effeminate. We've become Rome. Now, ladies, I'm not, you know what? No. I am not a fan of feminism, because I understand what it has done to society. I am not a misogynist. Because of my faith, I actually put women in a higher place than most other societies would. But I do not and will never believe that women are the equal of men any more than I believe men are the equal of women. We each have a role. And as we have feminized our society, we have lost this burning desire for liberty. As you hand the control of society over to women, well, then you're going to have a change based on their natural inclinations. Women crave security, stability. That's built into them. It is part of their nature. So that's one of the things that you're going to end up with. You're also going to end up with men who will not be the bulwarks of society. Yes, sir.
We have Jimmy on the phone. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Good morning, Mr.
Hey,
Zinker.
buddy.
Hey, man.
Hey, can I inject a thought here that was just inspired by Water Jug's call and your response to him on the subject of liberty and security?
Yes, please.
It appears a self-evident truth to me that if you don't have the self-motivation or the understanding to feed yourself, and you would evade that responsibility of existence in favor of putting that responsibility on the back of your superiors or your neighbors, you're not going to have a drive for liberty.
No.
The two go hand in hand. A person that has the natural drive for liberty will have the natural drive for self-sufficiency. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, that does. Because that's Galt's Gulch.
How it's dying out.
I do, but I don't know how to explain. I just read you know, when I said we've become Rome, that's the secular humanist explanation. I'll give you the explanation that makes a lot more sense to me. It's we worship new gods, man and state. Yeah. We have traded the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for mankind as his own God in this state. We refuse to remember
the God of governance. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Whether we like it or not, mankind worships. We were created to worship. We can't help but worship. It's a matter of what are you worshiping? And that which you trust for your sustenance and your survival is what you worship. Now, if you're a libertarian, you worship yourself because you know you're self-made. You pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. You depend on yourself. Well, that's a form of self-worship. If you're worshiping the state because you depend on the state to provide for yourself, then that you're worshiping the beast. If you're like myself and you understand that there is a creator and you rely on him, but you also understand that you are his agent in this world, I have to farm and subdue the land and bring order to this creation. That's what he told me to do. Yes, I still have to feed myself, but I'm relying on him to send the rain and the fair weather and to protect me from famine and drought. And if those things hit, you rely on him to see you through it. That's an entirely different world paradigm. That's the world the founding fathers had. So their quest for liberty was, their quest for liberty was not to make themselves God. It was to return.
So that opens the door for the rest. When the politician comes along and promises you everything with no effort of your own, and they demonize the rich, the greedy rich are responsible for all of your woes. I guess it's easy to be misled away from the understanding of true liberty and self-sufficiency.
Yes. Now follow me with this one. See if you don't at least see the pattern. We were told, if you read about ancient times, the superstitious people would sacrifice to the gods so that the gods would give them their sustenance, wouldn't wipe them out. How is it not a sacrifice to hand the God of state your liberty and rights in return for your sustenance? In concept, isn't that a sacrifice?
Or your neighbor.
Yeah,
or your neighbors. How have we changed?
You really want to settle off when they pull that greed card on you. They mention a greedy, wealthy person that should be taxed more. I always make the comment to them that I can think of no better example of greed than to demand your neighbor's benevolence as its duty while claiming it to yourself as a right. And boy, that sets them off because it exposes them to all hired help, what they really are.
Yes, it does. So
that just
what
came
is
to
the
mind. I don't think any true champion of liberty is going to be anything other than self-sufficient. They would consider even a helping hand as an insult that they would have to pay back later. I know I do.
Yes, they would. They've been propped up as being the morally superior people because, well, for whatever reason, I can't. How the places I could go with this conversation. Does anybody realize how racist? Yeah, but does anybody realize how racist this idea that you have to help? Because when we think of handouts, we think of people of quote unquote color, welfare. When I was in school in the early 90s, the majority of people on welfare were white, and they lived in the Appalachian region. Okay, but nobody ever said that. It was always thought to be the blacks or people of color, quote unquote. But how racist is that to believe that you have to provide for them because they can't take care of themselves?
Yep.
And who is it that pushes?
Now, Joe, you also have to consider into this equation also the fact that, like me, I love to work. I've employed myself.
Yeah, we're supposed to work.
The problem is most of what I make is already slated to be taken away from me before I even make it. And that's a discouragement against self-dependence.
For others who are not working.
Exactly.
So, yes, and self-sufficiency, like Waterjug is saying on the comment section, our government discourages self-sufficiency because they want dependency. When we're dependent on government, it establishes and solidifies their rule. And then they become gods.
One of the reasons that the progressive income tax is the number 2 plank in the Communist Manifesto.
Yes, it is. It destroys wealth. Yes, it destroys the accumulation of wealth.
It destroys the desire to achieve.
Yes, the Protestant work ethic.
That's what they really want, because once they take that away from you, you fall right into their hands. I think Lenin said, like ripened fruit. Was it Lenin or Stalin that said that about the capitalists? They'll fall into our hands like ripened fruit.
I think that one was Stalin. Could be wrong.
Yeah. I remember it being said.
Seems that Stalin was Lenin's pupil.
I'm gonna get off of here and let you take that on.
All right, brother.
I'm stepping on you because I can hardly hear you. I apologize.
No, you're good. You're good.
All right, see you later.
Take care. So what Jimmy was getting me, he had me going down this path. We're in breach as a country. We're in breach of the covenant that Washington made with Yahweh and the covenant that the founding fathers made with Yahweh. We don't realize it, but there was a covenant made in the Declaration of Independence. They appealed to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob for the justness of their cause. They appealed to that judge. If you appeal to that judge, that king, you're now in covenant to him. You're beholden to him, especially if he extends the scepter to you and finds in your favor. You're now in covenant relationship with him, and we're in a breach of that covenant. So we've lost the blessings, and we're suffering the curses. And rather than repent, we're doubling down, and we're welcoming, even inviting judgment. Because, I read, I can't remember her name now, but I read one of the conservative commentators that I sometimes follow. She said, we're not fighting demons and spirits. She goes, you guys got to get over that. We just haven't fully defeated communism yet. And everybody's agreeing with her. I got a little news flash for you. You cannot, in a material way, explain the way communism has stayed so consistent since its inception. You have to go to a spiritual hand behind all those many generations of humans that have not left that ideology. Where's my proof of that? Well, prove it, Joe. Fine. When the founding generation of this country died out, we promptly started to leave their ideal from that point forward. And it took us less than another generation before we were in the Civil War. So if the children of the people who gave the world liberty cannot cling to that ideology, that ideal that gives you liberty, without, some help somewhere, something above human nature, how the heck is it that the secular humanists managed to do this? There's a spiritual hand here. So denying the spiritual realm in all of this is foolhardy at best. It's foolish. And what we are doing as a nation is what Ephraim has always done. Trusts in himself, claims that his own material wealth is the work of his own labor and his military might, and he doesn't need the Creator anymore. And then the harbinger shows up. Happens every time. It's a repetition. It's in history over and over and over again. If the South is going to rise again, it's now or never. That's going to require secession. Now, it will also require something else nobody ever talks about. We're going to need a second party. A true opposition party. Well, Joe, there you go. That does us. We can't do it. We don't have the money. People won't support it. Blah, 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 blah. You're right. With that attitude, it won't happen. I'm reminded of something. I'm military minded, so I don't have many civilian life examples of these things. But for those of you, and Charlie may not be able to relate to this because he was an air wingy, a wing, swing with the wing. Air Force doesn't understand ground combat like us grunts do. But in World War II, the Battle of the Bulge, Patton promised something that was militarily impossible, and it was. By all rights, he shouldn't have been able to do what he did. He told Eisenhower that within 3 days, he would take his entire divisions, his army, it was an army, but several divisions. I mean, folks, we're talking 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people. A lot of people, a lot of equipment. He was going to pull them out of contact, pivot them 90 degrees, and move 100 miles and attack from the march within 3 days. That is not militarily possible, especially in the winter. You cannot do it. He did it. Why? Because he would not accept, well, I can't do it. He did it by sheer force of will. Did his people hate him for it? Yes. They did. But for what was needed at the time, that was a manly man that would not accept I can't or it can't be done as an answer. So he did it, and he saved an army. Now, I know that the 101st will tell you they didn't need saving at Bastogne. I got a little news flash for them. Yeah, they did. And he did it. Took him 3 days to break contact, pull out of contact with an enemy, pivot his entire army, move 100 miles through rough terrain in the winter. And then he didn't stop and organize his forces. He attacked from the march, straight into battle. Once upon a time, this country was a country of men and women like that. Don't tell me I cannot do something I'm in the middle of doing. Rush Limbaugh, Dan's Bake Sale. How many of y'all remember that? Were listening to Rush at the time. Gentleman called in. He had a problem. He needed money. Says, I can't get this done, blah, blah, blah. So the idea was hold Dan's Bake Sale. People from all over the country, I think it was in Colorado, flew to this bake sale. This man raised more money than he knew what to do with. And Rush helped them. Said, don't accept no for an answer. Rush Limbaugh was famous for telling us that we can do anything we want to do, pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. You know, the average American lives conservatively. When conservatism is sold properly, you know, it explained the way it's supposed to work, that it always wins in elections. People always vote for it. And yet, when I told him, you know, when anybody told him, let's start another party, oh, well, no, that's not possible. He said, no, you can't do that. He went against his own principles and ideals. That's why I turned against Rush Limbaugh. I realized he was either a liar or he didn't mean it. He didn't really believe it. In which case, in either case, he didn't deserve my allegiance or my ear or my time. That's why I turned against Glenn Beck. He's done the same thing. Man will always disappoint you, especially when they have money and influence and fame and notoriety. They'll start craving that. The one thing I can tell you is if you made me the richest person in the world, I'd still be sitting here on the radio or on the computer telling you the exact same thing I'm telling you now. That I know. I don't care about money. I'd probably give most of it away. It corrupts. It destroys. I am a sinner. I willingly do things I know I shouldn't do because I can't fight it. I've lost my discipline, the discipline I had when I was younger. It's gone. I'm constantly reminded that the founding fathers reminding us that once you lose your morals, your virtue as an adult, it's dang near impossible to get it back. It's also why I understand that if we continue another generation or two, you will lose this entire nation. There'll be nothing left to save. Secession is now or never. Nobody will listen. Nobody cares. Well, I'm not necessarily saying this audience. But I've been told, well, hey, go preach this to a politician. There's not a politician in this country that will touch what I'm saying right now. Not really. They'll do it regionally, locally, counties and cities, but they will not do this on the state level. Why? Ultimately, they crave their position more than service to their constituents or allegiance to liberty. That's the only answer I can come up with. And if that's your answer, then ultimately you crave allegiance to the beast and not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Well, Joe, I haven't got that tattoo or that chip, so I'm not aligned with the beast. You don't understand your scriptures. In the hand and in the head means what you think and do. It's a Hebrew idiom. It goes back to bury Yahweh's word in your head and in your hand. So what did the Jews do? Being good literalists, they put scripture in a little box and tie it to their head and write it on a piece of leather and wrap it around their hand. Now they're good to go because they've got it on their hand and on their head. That's not what Yahweh meant. I could put it on my hand and on my head all I want and still belong to the devil. The mark is where your allegiance is. What you rely on for your sustenance, for your survival. We are no longer a nation that even comes close to believing in the rule of law. We've abandoned the Constitution. We've abandoned Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And yet we want the blessings. We deserve them. We demand them. Why? Because we're America. What part of Yahweh is no respecter of men have we not understood? If he will cast Israel out, the apple of his eye, makes you think he's not going to cast us out. It is secession or nothing. And it won't be the secular humanists, deep state, the socialists, and the communists that win. You've got 2 generations left before Islam starts taking over this country. 3 at the most. Because once they take over the region, the little area, like they're doing in Michigan, they now own the police force. Well, Joe, it's only 40% of the cops. Yeah, and look what they're doing. They're speaking in Arabic. And they're enforcing Sharia law over the United States Constitution. You cannot be a practicing Muslim and swear an allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. It's not possible because you have to deny Allah, except for the fact that Muhammad lets you lie. So you can say the oath because you know that you don't mean it. It's why the founding fathers didn't want Catholics in office, because your allegiance was to the Pope, you know, the vicar of Christ. It was Jesus on earth in the form of a man, something he specifically told you, do not do. And yet you do it. Oh, well, he made Peter the vicar. No, he didn't. Learn how to read your Bible. You put a comma where it didn't belong in the Greek. You don't understand the Hebrew mind. You don't care. This right here today, right now, this is why I'm an acquired taste. Look the monster in the eye, and in this case, the monster is the devil, the dragon. Speak truth to power. The king of this world. It's not Yeshua. He told you, my kingdom is not of this world. He will rule over the remade earth, not this one. He rules over the spiritual. If this were not the case, you'd be told, be born on this earth again, not be spiritual from above. It's just say, yeah, just change your earthly allegiance. It's not what the scriptures tell us. And I know you don't want to hear the religious. Do me a favor, don't ever bother reading the founding fathers. Don't listen to Patrick Henry, for sure. Don't read John Adams. Don't read Jefferson. Oh, he was a deist, Joe. Don't read Franklin. He was a deist, Joe. Yeah. Ask Waterjug how that worked out for him. And I don't mean to insult Waterjug. I actually praise him highly here because he did what I asked him to do. He went and proved it to himself. Great praise for somebody who's willing to look at contrary evidence and then accept the truth of what they find. Great esteem for that man. He's in the classroom with you right now. High praise. Sincere. You know what? My plaque tells me to shut my mouth when I'm out of words. Charlie, you got anything?
No, it's yeah. Another one of those shows. But it's the way it is.
So why do we do shows like this? Well, for one, so that you can see what's coming and start preparing for it. Accept the truth and then deal with it. Self-sufficiency to the extent that you're capable of, and decide for yourself. Are you going to rely on the government here? Are you going to turn to the creator of the universe? There's no middle ground. Figure one of them out. All right, well, we'll get out of here. I don't know what we're doing tomorrow. He hasn't given me anything yet, but I guarantee you it'll be something worth time and effort. He always does that for me, especially on Wednesdays. So the Spirit will show me something for Worship Wednesday. Thursday, I think we're going to start talking about the Declaration of Independence, the original one. So if you have time, go look up the transcript of the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. Start reading it. It's actually longer than the one that they published. Pay attention to Jefferson's complaints, because that's where we're going to spend the most of the longest part of the show on Thursday. And oh my gosh, it's going to sound, when you understand the times, what he's complaining about, and you understand how to read it today, it's going to sound like he could have been writing that, not today, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So that's where we'll be. And then Friday, we've got the next 2 chapters of Dr. Heiser's book. Remember, November 24th through 28th. If we're lucky, replays. Otherwise, a week off. So until we see each other again, we love you. We thank you for being here. We would please, if you like what we're doing, hit the like buttons. If you're on YouTube, smack the bell. Do all of that good stuff that helps the logarithms get the show out to other people. I am finally starting to see this show and We Who Are Lost in my social feeds, which means that we are, even if we don't have the audience numbers, the logarithms are starting to recognize this program. A lot of that is up to you. The more you comment, the more you share the show, the more you hit the like buttons, the more you help us spread the word. This program is looking for Gideon's 300. Are you going to be one of those? We Who Are Lost are looking for the 7,000 that will not bend the knee to Baal. Hopefully you'll be both. It's up to you. We love you. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.